Two people wandering around the tracks of Europe looking for a podcast that suits their needs. Oli Meggitt and Martin Southall are those two people. With the ability to chat shit about RC cars for less than an hour with their bare hands. The Bent Chassis Podcast, the podcast with no name. Except for that one.
Hello everyone, it's time for another podcast.
Indeed, every time I sit down to record this, I'm almost amazed that we are still going, but here we are again.
Well, as long as people keep listening, we'll keep making them.
Yeah, why not? It's nice to get comments back from everybody as usual. Please do comment and share these podcasts. It helps us, and hopefully we're getting people more engaged with stuff. And it's nice to hear what people have to say about what we're doing as well. So thank you for those.
Yeah, indeed. Right. So where are we in our race schedule then right now?
So we're in the middle of summertime at the moment, and actually had some really good weather at the moment. Pretty decent weather across the UK and across Europe. So all the events are going quite well at the moment.
So it's been a really good few weeks, and there's plenty more great events to come. But this time we're not going to talk about the races like we have done over the last few episodes.
Yeah, that's right. We'll take a bit of a twist this time, and not only move away from the races, but also move away from racers. And we thought we'd step into the RC industry itself.
And one of the biggest names in RC for what must be 40 or more years now is Schumacher. So we thought it'd be great to have a chat with the Schumacher boss himself, Robin Schumacher.
Yeah, well, that's all from us, I think. Let's just get on with it, shall we? It's the Bent Chassis On-Road podcast. It's episode 14. Let's find out from Robin what happens when someone does bend a chassis.
This is the Bent Chassis Podcast. Let's bring on a guest, shall we?
Well, hello, Robin. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Good evening.
How are you doing? All good at the moment? Nice and busy, I assume?
Yeah, doing very well, thanks. Yeah, keeping well, keeping busy. Yeah, life's pretty good.
Fantastic. Well, we've got quite a few things we want to talk to you about, and I suppose the thing we'll kick off with is a bit about the history of yourself and of Schumacher racing as well. We've obviously seen quite a lot of videos over time where you or your father Cecil have talked about the history of Schumacher from your father Cecil establishing it, the very early sort of 12 scale cars that the company produced, the revolutionary ball differential that he designed as well. But we want to kind of focus more on your impact on the company, if that's okay for today. So firstly, how involved with your father were you in the early days of Schumacher, and kind of what was your intro into RC racing?
Okay, our first intro into RC racing was on a family outing to Lilford Park in Northamptonshire, which was an old stately home that was open to the public. And I was about 12 or 13, I think, with the family, and they had an 8 scale on-road track there. And I remember seeing this going on. It was really exciting and quite we were quite taken aback by it all. And I remember my dad, walking around the pitch talking to people. But he decided that was I was keen, but he decided it was too complicated and for a 12-year-old or whatever. So nothing happened until a couple of years later, when the very first electric RC cars started. NiCad batteries became just about powerful enough to power a 1/12 scale car, and racing started up on sports halls with very slippery floors. We used to race on the wooden floors with foam tyres with silicon rubber bath sealer on them to try and get a bit of grip. But there was so little power that it didn't have much grip didn't really matter. And that's when electric racing started in some late 70s.
And that was the flexi car, was it? That was the first one, or?
Well, we started off. He my dad bought me a Mardev car for a Christmas present. That was the very start of it, which had a fiberglass chassis. And then I used to race that at the local club, and they had solid axles. All the 12th scale cars had solid axles at the time, and he was an engineer at Cosworth, and he designed me a ball differential. So that was then a huge advantage. I was the only person with a diff, and I won some races. And so he started making a few for my friends in the garage, and that's how the business started. Originally just doing differentials, and then later on they did, the first car happened, which was the flexi chassis XL car.
And obviously then you went through a number of different 12 scale variations, eventually sort of moving into off-road racing as that got bigger. In the sort of 90s, I think, was the time frame for that, or sorry, late 80s, I think, even for some of the off-road stuff. But if we jump forward a bit further, then at what point were kind of you involved in the company itself and taking an active role in the leadership of the company, even prior to kind of, I guess, your father stepping away from it and you taking over the reins officially at the top?
Yeah, during the early days, I was on the periphery a bit. I was racing when I was at school, and then I went to university and kind of stopped racing for a bit. And then when I finished university, I wanted to do something different, really. I wanted to do my own thing, so I ended up working in the IT industry in London for a few years. And then I joined the business, and I was still restless, and so I saw an advert for a European Union sponsored scheme. So I got the opportunity to study and work in Japan for a year and a half. It was the European Union Executive Training Program, which was a big scheme to reduce the trade deficit between Europe and Japan. And they were looking for European companies who had the potential to export into Japan. So I managed to persuade them we were a good candidate. So I had a great experience in Japan for a year and a half, and then came back and then went straight to Florida, because we had an office in Florida, and the manager had just left, and there was a bit of a void there. So I ran Schumacher USA in Florida for 4 years. And then finally my dad was deciding he wanted to retire, and so there was I had to make a decision, really. Do I want to take this opportunity, which seemed like a pretty good opportunity? So I came back home and took over the business in the year 2000.
And what was that like then, taking over from, obviously you've been working close with your dad through that time and running Schumacher USA and things as well. So what was it like actually kind of taking? Do you remember that first day of actually now I'm in charge of this one now, and sort of taking responsibility for the whole company from that point?
Well, it was a transition over a period of months, or maybe a year or two, and our skills are quite different. Cecil's a very good engineer, and was very good on the engineering side of things, and he wasn't so interested in the business side of it. Whereas I think my strengths are a bit different, and I'm perhaps more suitable to the business side of things. And I've studied engineering, but I'm not as skilled an engineer as he is. And so it's the roles are a bit different. So it took a while. Yes, I was still relatively young and inexperienced, and I made a few mistakes, and we had a few ups and downs in the early years. It was I took over at a time when the company was going through quite a tough patch. I think Cecil had sort of backed off a bit and was thinking about retiring, and the off-road market was really down. It's in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It had been a big part of our business. Touring cars was happening, and we also did quite a bit of nitro ready-to-run vehicles at that time. So, being as the racing seemed down, we focused on nitro RTR vehicles for a few years, and we did okay for a while. But then the Chinese companies started getting stronger. In the early days, the Chinese stuff was cheap and rubbish and wasn't a threat. But then, after a few years, it was still cheap and the quality was not that bad. And then
then it becomes a problem for you.
And that became challenging. So we had a few tough years then. We just couldn't compete on price. And then we focused back more onto the racing stuff. That's and we can't compete in the mass market against the Chinese factories when it's purely on price, but we can react very quickly. We can be agile. We can be on top of the new trends quickly in racing. We're very involved in racing, and we can be at the sharp end and make good racing products. And that we recognise was our strengths, and so we've focused on that ever since, really, and the company's gradually grown and got stronger. And I think over the years we've become one of the major companies now in the world of RC racing.
It kind of answered part of the next questions we was going to come in with here as well, really. So I'm going to kind of like abstract a bit there. And obviously, as you said, since you've taken over, things have changed in the world quite significantly in the last 25 years since you've taken over. And we've obviously had the internet has come through there, and social media, which we all absolutely love. But there's also the big change. The RC scene, as you've basically just said there, has changed so much as well. So when you first came in, were there changes that you wanted to make straight away, see what was going on, or what other big changes for the company have you overseen other than this switch back from effectively the ready-to-run market back into the more professional arena of cars?
There've been a lot of changes. I guess, the internet was one big thing, and so one of the changes was to, after a few years, to close down our USA office, which was always seemed to have great potential, but always struggled a bit. And so eventually we closed that down, and we supply directly to hobby stores in USA now, and that's working well for us. We used to do a lot of manufacturing in-house. We still do quite a bit of manufacturing in-house. We did make a few changes and outsource some of that. So that was a bit of restructuring involved there. We also grew the sort of import distribution side of the business as well. At the time, we focused really on our own cars and not much else. But since then, we've established some very good relationships with companies who make motors and batteries and speed controls and radios and all the things we don't make. So we've got now very good partners to provide pretty much everything you need for the hobby of RC racing, whether we make it ourselves or whether we supply it from other sources.
And I think that leads into the next thing that I'd kind of had on my notes to talk about, which is exactly that sort of position that Schumacher is in, which is a fairly unique one, I would think, within the industry, that you're both that major distributor for the UK market of all the different brands and all the different products, as well as being a manufacturer yourselves. And I suppose that's not just the cars you're manufacturing, but you've got a number of other sort of brands that sit alongside that, and the products that sit in that range, like the Core RC range or the Aerox range and things like that. So you're manufacturing or sourcing products for both of those sides of things. So how does the business kind of work at the moment between those sort of two areas? Have you got different people split between the kind of car design work, some working in a sort of the production roles, and some separately involved in distribution aspects, or do people kind of work across all the different areas?
Yes, it's the two parts of the business very much complement each other. The cars and a lot of the Aerox products are our own design, and so we've got our engineering team, and they very much focus on designing and developing our own products. Then we've got the sales department look after selling everything, but they're focused more on the distribution products, and so and there's sometimes there's a bit of competition there, and it's quite good for keeping our engineers on their toes, really. If we say, well, yes, well, you've designed something, but we can buy this in from somewhere else, and it's better than yours or cheaper than yours, and so I think that challenge for them is very good. Keeps them performing well, and with our own brands, the Schumacher brand, and then Aerox and Core for accessories. The Core is generally not stuff we've designed, but stuff we've sourced from mostly from Chinese companies, from accessories. And then there are all the other brands that we partner with, like Hobbywing and Elsaram for and Sky for speed controls, Sky chargers, Sanwa and KO radios, and LRP, and there's a number of others.
There's a lot of badges.
Like Extreme and Montec for body shells.
So you really have kind of a really broad coverage of the marketplace, and it almost feels like you're taking those opportunities to if there's a brand out there or a product line that fits in with what I guess racers will need, then it's an opportunity then for you to look at that and say, is that something we can distribute? And I guess a part of that decision is whether that makes business sense as well to actually take on that brand as well.
Yeah, that's right. We're very much focused on the racing market, not exclusively. We do occasionally have some low-cost RTR products where there's an opportunity there, and we think it fits in. But it's mostly racing, and we've gradually got involved in more and more classes of racing over the years. We keep adding another racing class, and it's great. It's what everyone here is enthusiastic about. Most people in the company come from a racing background, and it's what we all enjoy doing, and so it's just great to have a new challenge and to take on a new racing class.
So while you're talking about taking on new challenges and new racing classes, although we may allude to that one a little bit later on, one of the questions then is obviously when you produce a new kit and working out what that market uptake works out, how do you decide how many kits you're going to produce? I'm going to just surmise that, like most businesses, you're projecting, roughly what the market's going to look like and how many of them you're going to sell, because you've probably got a reasonable lead time for a lot of the products to be manufactured. So how do you go about making those decisions of when you're going to execute from a design to produce, and then moving on to how many of them effectively you're going to order to business?
It's always a difficult decision, and it's a very big, important decision, because a batch of kits is a very big investment. So usually with the established classes we're in, like touring cars, for example, if we want to make a new touring car, we've got the history of, how many of the previous model that we've sold. Yeah. And we can base it on that and decide if the market is a bit stronger or a bit weaker over the last few years. And then we generally make a batch of cars that we think will last a couple of years. And if it goes better than we expected, it might only last a year, and we've got to rush through an update or make a second batch. And sometimes it's slower than we expect. And so it ends up being 3 or 4 years, or we do a very minor refresh where we use most of the same parts. It's I really could do with a crystal ball to get that one.
Well, I'm just going to ask on top of this one then, obviously, for where the market is, and the MI9 was a very, very successful platform when that was first released after the MI8, and it seemed from the outside that the thing that you couldn't keep it in stock long enough, which is obviously a fantastic position to be in, that they're being bought quicker than you can produce them, and more came along, and the uptake was very big. And then we've recently had the MI10, which made its appearance a few months ago, and of course is also going on to be a successful platform. So when you were projecting what you bought for the MI9 and how successful that was, did that take into I'm sure it did take into account, but how far did you go further for the MI10 this year and bring in more than you did initially with the MI9?
I think we've done a similar number with MI10. It's always very hard to judge, and sometimes you get you're fashionable and for whatever reason, or you win a big race, and if we win a world championships, then it messes up my figures.
Oh no, terrible shame. What a lovely position to be in on Monday morning, though.
Yeah,
the grass got
then
up.
Sometimes we don't do very well, and so it's hard to predict things like that.
Yeah, I can imagine it probably is.
So when you're when we're talking about that sort of stuff, obviously, you primarily talked about the focus, the large focus being on racing products, and by extension there, as you just touched on, success on the track is pretty important in that arena as well. But how do you sort of balance up the business aspect of things with the sort of on-track success factor as well? Because presumably if you only cared about on-track results, you would spend a load of money on development and designers and drivers and things like that. But then that's obviously not going to be sustainable as a business for you. The money's going to run out pretty quickly. So how do you sort of manage to balance the two up? And is that where sort of, the partnerships you've got with some of the brands you distribute come into effect as well, that you've got that sort of second string to your bow in helping the business kind of grow and continue that way too?
Yeah, racing is very expensive, and obviously the top drivers in the world are professional drivers. I think there's no secret in that they earn a salary, and it's what they do, and also we have to pay all their travel expenses to go around the world going racing. So it's expensive, and you can never directly measure the benefits of such things. It's a lot of it is gut feeling that, but it's important for two reasons. It's partly promoting the products and showing people around the world what the cars can do, but also it's product development as well. We do have to have top drivers competing at the top level in order to develop the products and make sure that they are competitive, and you really need the best drivers to do that they can feel really subtle changes that average drivers like me can't feel, and I've tried it at the local club and with the engineers. What do you think of that? Well, it feels the same to me, but it will make a difference. It's a continual challenge that every weekend we are testing our products against our competition in a race somewhere around the world. So we can never relax. We always have to keep pushing and try to improve the products.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you see Schumacher now as a business and position in the industry, and what are your aims or plans for the next year or two? Do you have like a very long-term goal, obviously, other than winning every single race? Anything specific?
To continue growing the business, I find it a challenge, and stimulating to push things a bit and try and grow the business. We've got a great team of people here. I'm really proud of the staff we've got. They do a great job. They're really passionate and dedicated, and so I think the RC racing scene worldwide is certainly, I think there's probably some modest growth in racing. It would be nice if there was more, but I think overall it's reasonably healthy. So there are plenty of more class racing for us to have a go at. It's going for a while.
The growth obviously looks good because there was that fantastic announcement, when you brought on Matthew Dambreen, Dan Robbins, and Ben Smith onto the design team, investing in youth. I don't know if they're on apprenticeships as well, but yeah, I think that's a great mark for businesses that are showing a way through the hobby in the youth coming into it as well. And obviously the outlook must be good because otherwise you wouldn't be taking on 3 people in what are key roles, because the design of the product is, as you said before, is so important. And I think that's just really good leadership, showing people the way to move forwards. I really like that.
Thank you. They're 3 talented young people, and they're still growing into the job and learning a lot. But they're great for the long term of the company to have people like that.
So I think we can round off this section sort of linking it all back together again, and we've talked a lot about how you've changed the business and developed the business and grown the business over the years. But one thing that's always stayed the same, and this is linked back to the original part, is the company logo, and it's had some updates and things through its time as well. But I think for those people that don't know, would you like to explain a bit of that and how that sort of that history then essentially is staying with the company all the way through all of this stuff we're talking about?
Yeah, the arrows logo is something that Cecil came up with many years ago, and it's a forced diagram for a differential. Basically, we've got an input and variable outputs for the 2 wheels. I think it's Bose notation. I think is where it came from. So Cecil came up with it, and it stuck. It's become distinctive, and and it stands out. I think it works. It's quite bold on the back of a t-shirt or a banner.
Absolutely. Well, that's been really fascinating to hear about that part. We've still got lots more to talk about, so I think we'll take a short break here and come back in a second and move on to another area to chat with you about.
We'll be right back.
This is the Bent Chassis Podcast, and now let's talk about something else.
So the next part I think we want to chat about is the drivers element of things. We touched on a little bit about that earlier on, but let's kind of dive into that a bit more. And you've got a very big kind of team of drivers across all the different classes of racing that you have. You've got cars and products in and all around the world as well. And I suppose when we're talking about drivers, there's 2 aspects of that. There's the full-time professional drivers that you touched on, and they're a core part of not only the racing but the development process as well. But you've also got the supported drivers, so the vast majority of the drivers that are probably wearing the team t-shirts and things at the racetracks. So I suppose the first question, and no doubt this is a question you get asked at the track or via email every week in your inbox, how do you kind of get people onto the team? How much of that is drivers approaching you and the company to say, we'd like to be part of this, or we want to drive your cars? And how much is it where you might go out and kind of talk to drivers and try and convince them to be part of Schumacher that way?
It's a bit of both, and it varies a bit. If when our cars are good and on top and winning races, we get lots of people approaching us, and sometimes we have the best car. But in racing, what tends to happen is that manufacturers tend to leapfrog each other. We'll have the best car for a while, then someone else will make something and it's better in some aspects, and if we're not winning races, then we don't get many people approaching us, and then we'll make some developments and make something new and get back on top again. So obviously, I always prefer drivers who want to drive for us, and so I'm very happy to talk to people who approach us, and but equally, when especially on sort of the higher level drivers, we sometimes approach people informally or have a chat at the tracks and sound people out. So there's many different levels of sponsorship, as you say, from the professional drivers through to we've got A, B, and C team drivers, and but it's not all about the professionals. We do. Our team drivers are our representatives at all the clubs and tracks around the world, and we can't be at all of them, of course. We've got limited resources with staff as to what races we can attend. So we attend all the big races, the national and international races, but for the club races where we can't be there, we still want to show off our products, and so we have lots of local team drivers, and some of them, they may not do particularly well at a national race, but if they can win races at their local club, then they're influential and maybe worthy of a team drive. And the team drive it's partly about race results, about winning races, but it's far more than that. It's also about being the right sort of person who's helpful and approachable, and will answer questions. And if other people with a car have got set up questions or struggling for whatever reason, they'll be helpful, and they won't lose their cool, have a tantrum at the track if they don't win, things like that. So it's the right sort of person to who we would be wanting to wear our shirt and represent us at the tracks. And then and then there's just the different levels of sponsorship that start off with a bit of discount on products, through to drivers who receive products free of charge, and then drivers who we pay travel expenses to, and then ones we pay a salary to. So there's lots of different steps on the way to becoming a professional driver, and people move up the ladder. They start at the basic level, and then if they can prove themselves and get better race results and be the right sort of person, then they step up the ladder of sponsorship.
So you're sort of almost kind of like rewarding, someone who's doing well, representing the brand well, on track and off track. That's the kind of route for them to start moving up the ladder as well.
Yes, I think that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
On the business, sorry, I just asked a question on the business element there. When you do take on drivers in local clubs, do you track the metrics for uptakes? So someone that's doing well is suddenly you might start selling more kits in that area than you were before. Is that a metric you track as well?
We don't formally track that. It's very hard to know, because so many kits are bought online these days, and therefore you don't know. Years ago you could do it better when there were lots of local model shops around, but when it's bought online, you don't know where it's going to. So it's hard to track that, but we can see how many of our cars are running at a certain club or track, and get an idea of how well our team drivers are doing, I guess. But there's no formal metrics for it.
So you've kind of said about the drivers at the club being influential and things like that, and obviously they are brand ambassadors for you. You don't want people having a tantrum and things like that. But there's also probably a lot of quiet drivers out there that they stay off the social media and quietly going about their racing as well. And I've known you for a few years now, so I know you follow results around clubs as well. Are there other ones drivers that you've seen and picked out just based on their results that you've seen at clubs and spoken to them, as opposed to being someone that appears or a known name that's been on the scene for a while?
Yes, there are drivers we've met at clubs. I mean, I still go and do a bit of club racing, and other members of staff do. So yeah, we meet people and chat to people, and yeah, there are people I've met at the clubs and given a team drive to, or others are recommendations from other team drivers. We do have to be a bit careful about where we draw the line as to who qualifies for a team drive, because our main business is selling product through the shops, and we do need the model shops to stock our products and support the company. So we can't sponsor everyone, so we do have to draw a line. And there's a young chap I sponsored recently at the local club, and he's basically, the challenge was he had to beat me at the club to be sponsored. And,
I suppose that's what we do.
Driver, and eventually he did, and now he's a lap ahead of me, and hasn't looked back.
So, where are we? September. It's the end of September, right? So that's the busy period. The contracts all end, and then those drivers would be reapplying for their drive. As you already said, there's generally probably quite a lot of applications, and not everybody obviously gets a drive that applies for it, right? But when all those applications come in, I'm pretty sure it's not, you don't just sit down, do you, on your own with your head in your hands, and you normally, I'm going to guess, with Chris Ashton, and then take advice from probably some of the other on-road team drivers. But what does the selection criteria look like around, and how do you arrive at those decisions for those people?
Yes, the several staff have an input on that. We have team driver meetings, and we get the applications, and we involve the relevant staff who go to the races. For off-road, it's Trish Neal, Mark Musgrove, Ben Smith. Maybe an on-road is Chris Ashton, Andy Murray, Matthew Dombreen, Dan Robbins, Mick Button, who does 8th scale. There's a lot of staff are involved in different classes. So we have meetings and have discussions about that, and sometimes we're not sure, so we'll reach out to for a reference from maybe a model shop owner or another team driver who knows them.
Yeah.
And we do get quite a few applications from people with very, very inexperienced people who just like the idea of being a team driver, and they really haven't been racing long enough, or haven't got the results, or haven't got the experience. So a team driver has to, we can't afford to sponsor too many drivers because they get good discounts on the products, and if we sold to everyone at those discounts, we wouldn't stay in business. We give quite big discounts and on some of the drives. So we do expect something in return for that, and that's for the driver to represent at the tracks and be a good ambassador for us. Yes, if anyone applies, we'll have to sort of politely say no, we don't think it's right, and some come back next year and try again, and are successful on the second or third time. That sometimes happens.
Well, if we jump to the other end of the scale and talk about the professional drivers that you've got, and obviously the star driver for you guys at the moment is Michał Orlowski, and the massive success he's had over the last 3 or 4 years, really. I suppose that's when he's really kind of exploded on the scene and helped promote your brand further as well. I think it's fair to say over that time as well. But he's been with you for actually quite a number of years so far. And can you talk us about how that partnership started and maybe how it's evolved during that time as well, to the point where he's recognised as one of the best racers in the world across multiple classes?
Yes. So Michał's been with us over 10 years now, since he was 13 years old, I think, when he joined us. And that's one case where we were proactive, and Mark Musgrove, who's very involved in our team, he's mostly his off-road, so you may not know him so well, but Mark, or Muzz as he's known as, he's quite good at tracking people down on social media and making contact and that. So that was the time when Durango basically were in trouble and closed their racing team, and we thought there might be an opportunity. We were much less strong back then as a manufacturer. We didn't have as high a profile as we have now. We were more one of the niche manufacturers back then, and so Mark reached out to Michael and his dad, and it was the right timing, and they were interested and joined us, and he rapidly moved up the sponsorship ladder, and won the off-road European Championships, I think only a year after he joined us.
Yeah.
And since then has had tremendous success over the years in all classes. He's a true professional. He's very dedicated, very hard-working, and very talented, and one of the very few who can adapt to from touring cars to 12th scale to 10th off-road buggies, and now 8th scale as well.
Yeah, that's maybe a good segue for us just to mention the 8th scale stuff as well. I know what the name of the podcast says we focus on road stuff, but I think since we're chatting to you as well, and you've talked about the evolution of the business, and clearly 8th scale is now the sort of new thing for Schumacher to be taking on, and the new classes for you to be getting involved in. So can you just talk us briefly through how that kind of came about, and what's that meant, sort of starting a brand new platform, a class that you've not been involved in before?
It's been a big project, 8th scale. It's there are no common parts, I don't think, with any of the other cars. So it's been a big investment for us, and it's been on the go for several years, and we've had to take our time over it because we don't want to lose focus on all the other classes of racing we're in. We've got to keep refreshing the touring cars and the 10th scale buggies to keep those competitive. So we've had to sort of fit in 8th scale around that a bit. So it's been on the go for maybe 5 years, I think, since we first started it. And so there's a lot of investment, a lot of time going into it, and we've been running prototypes for the last couple of years. We started running cars that were mostly other brands of car with a few of our parts on, and then as things have evolved, we're now running quite advanced prototypes with pretty much all of our parts on, and we're getting close to having cars available, but it's still a few months away.
And I suppose it's worth, as we're recording this at the moment, we've just had the 1/8 e-buggy Euros take place last weekend. I guess you kind of went into that on a bit of a high with Michael winning the warm-up race, but that event kind of didn't seemingly go to plan then with him and Daniel. Was it the B final for Daniel and C final for Michael at the end? So is that a bit of a demonstration as to how tough it is actually to get into a new class of racing?
It is very tough, yes, absolutely. And 1/8 off-road is one of the most competitive classes. And yes, we had a fantastic warm-up and won that. And I don't know the full story because I haven't had a debriefing with the engineers yet. They're not back. But clearly this one didn't go as well as we'd hoped. There were certainly some promising signs, and it looks like they got it sorted for the finals and did some of the fastest laps of the weekend in the finals, but it was too late by then. So, but we're still fine-tuning the cars and still learning about it, and we want to make sure that we get everything as spot on as we can for when it's released.
Yeah, wish you the best of luck with that one, and I look forward to getting hold of one of them myself. E-buggies are very, very appealing. I do like the look of that because I think I could probably not break that crashing it as much as I can a 10th one.
It's a fun class. I'm also looking forward to having a go.
We'll go down the road. We'll do together. Yeah, Hearts is only up the road here. That's I don't know much about 8th, and other than the fact that the Hearts have got this massive 8th track next there on next to their 10th scale one. I'm assuming there must be lots of tracks like that around the country as well that are dedicated specifically to 8th.
Yes, indeed there are. Yeah.
I think the only one I've seen is the Neo one. That's quite a big one. I saw that one early in the year, and I quite like the look of that. Maybe something to think about for the winter.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, well, what we'll do, because that went nicely into that. Thank you for just taking that little walk into a different class for us as well. But we'll go back to the drivers again, and how important having the pro drivers seems to be now. Do you think that's changed over the years? You know, their prominence and what they're bringing to the company, as opposed to maybe like 10, 20 years ago when they were few and far between.
Yeah, I think they have got more important. I think the sport or the hobby has grown over the years and become more professional, and social media has really helped. I think to promote the sport and promote the drivers. It's important for a professional driver to have a good social media presence as well, and there's lots of races are streamed online now. So I guess the drivers are more accessible and more to the general public, to racers who can't get along to the tracks necessarily. So yeah, the drivers are very important, and for showing what the product can do, and also they do a lot of testing and development for us.
That social media side they all bring. We talked about that earlier, even on the business side as well. But a good social media presence and profile seems to be king. Because I mean, I read some of the stuff on Facebook, and you can see some drivers when they leave one team and go to another one, and they seem to have a following as well. When they do this, if they want to run all the same products they're running as well. So that seems quite a big evolutional change for being prominent on the scene and being respected. I think that's probably helps as well, and winning.
Yeah, the top drivers they're big celebrities now, and I think more so than they were 10 or 20 years ago. They're very recognised when they go to different tracks.
And am I right in thinking that Mikhail's actually the first sort of pro driver you've had since maybe Timu Lino in the 2000s? If you had, therefore, has that sort of changed the way that you've approached things?
No, we've had sort of semi-pro drivers, I guess, in the past. Quite often, pro drivers work in an RC company, working for a manufacturer, or work in a hobby shop and have some sort of involvement in the industry when they're not racing. So it's a slightly sort of grey areas if they're totally a pro driver, or what they do other things as well. I think a lot of them do other things. Going back, we had Timu Lino, Yuka Stinari, top driver in the 90s. We have had pro drivers before, but perhaps not quite as high profile.
Yeah. And one other thing I think to touch on, linking back again to an earlier thing we're talking about, where you mentioned you running Schumacher USA and how that's now changed, that no longer exists, and it's all sort of sourced and managed from the UK office. The US market is obviously a really big market, particularly in the off-road side of things, not so big on the on-road side, it has to be said. And I think one of the things that's been quite noticeable has been how over the last few years you've really managed to gain a really strong foothold in that off-road market, in particular over in the US. Has that been firstly, do you see that as happening, or is that just sort of been something that's already there but maybe not as prominent as it is now? And what do you put that down to in terms of being able to grow your presence in the US?
Yes, we are now. We've got a great team in America now, and we're very strong, particularly in 10th off-road.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Brock Champlin, our top American driver, won the two-wheel drive 10th Worlds for us in Australia last year.
Yeah.
It's been gradual growth over quite a few years. It's taken a lot of time and effort to become successful in America, and there isn't one easy answer to that question. You've got to just keep chipping away at it and improving it, and I guess it's just been a gradual thing. We've just got a bit better every year and a bit stronger every year, and gradually been able to get a high caliber of drivers and gradually get the cars into more hobby stores. And then we were, for many years, sort of there'd be like one or two Schumacher cars to national. There'd be a novelty product, but we're now. I think Associated are probably still the biggest manufacturer in the US, we're pretty strong now, and I have a good team.
Okay. This has been a really, really good section, I think, on the drivers. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a short break because it is still warm and we all need to out west a little bit. And we'll be right back in a second.
This is the Bent Chassis Podcast. Let's have a bit more from Martin and I.
Okay, and we're back again, getting towards the end of what's been an excellent podcast so far. The most important question is the one that we directly try and remember now is, Robin, have you bent any chassis?
Sure I have. I've been racing for many, many years, and I've definitely bent a chassis over the years. It depends what. I guess if it's an aluminium chassis, then yes, I've definitely bent those. Carbon fibre chassis tend not to bend, they just break. But I've had my fair share of big crashes, and quite often when we do new products, then I'll go and test them and make sure that I consider myself as a fairly average level racer, and it needs to be good for me to drive, and it needs to be robust for me to have a big crash with it. So all of our engineers tend to be pretty good drivers, and sometimes they don't crash enough. So I will occasionally take the transmitter and and I wouldn't say I'll try to break it, but I'll drive it hard and see what happens.
I think I vaguely remember that. That's how we first met about 10 years ago now at Hertford Club, and you came down running a prototype Superstocks GT12.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
I don't remember you crashing into much that night either, so probably needed more durability testing, but that was a very good car and the first step into the GT12 market as well. Yeah. So, Ollie.
Yeah, I was going to kind of sort of round things off with we touched on a lot of the evolution we've seen in RC and across your company in that time as well. But what do you sort of get the crystal balls out now, which is always a tough thing to do? Where do you sort of see that next evolution being, or what's kind of on your radar as what's next in RC?
In the hobby in general, I don't see any major changes happening. I think it's pretty stable. There's always new classes of racing coming along, and that's fine. Racers sometimes get bored with one class and want to change, want to try something different. So there'll be new types of racing coming along, and we'll get involved with whatever people want to race. I guess the big changes over the years have been in technology, such as LiPo batteries was a big step forward. Brushless motors, when they came in, they changed the hobby a lot. 2.4 gigahertz radios was a big innovation. So sometimes there's a step change due to a new technology, but there hasn't been one recently on that. And so I'm not sure what the next one is. But it's racing's still pretty healthy. It's a great hobby, and it's I think the fact there's more information online now, more YouTube races, more podcasts, it will help get the word out to people, because there's still a lot of people out there who don't really know what RC racing is, and it's a great hobby if we can get the word out to them.
Yeah. And from a Schumacher perspective, what should we be keeping an eye on? We talked a little bit about the 8 scale stuff earlier on, but is there anything else on the horizon for you that you want to give us any hints or teasers about that we should watch out for?
No, is the short answer. 8 scale is the next big thing that I can talk about, and there's plenty of other things in the pipeline being developed, but I can't give away any secrets right now, I'm afraid. But watch this space, and we're certainly not standing still. There's plenty of stuff being worked on.
Oh, you're not having the design team twiddling their thumbs at the moment, then?
Indeed not. They're always busy.
We are getting towards the end. I do want to say a thank you to you as well, because even though you have all the racing products, you have the drivers, everything we're talking about, and the support that Schumacher give to those drivers as well. It's also the support that you give back to all the race series as well, and there's not many of them you don't see around now which aren't sponsored by Schumacher, and we know that doesn't come at a small price either. So you're not just investing in the drivers, you're investing in the clubs and the series as well. So I thank you for that as well.
Well, thank you, Martin, and certainly the racing is important. We do rely on lots of volunteers such as yourselves putting on race meetings, and I know it's a lot of work, but it's a great hobby. We're all passionate about the hobby, and want to support the people who put the effort in and make the racing happen.
Well, it doesn't happen without you, and equally, it is a symbiotic relationship, and we all need each other, and I think it's important that everyone remembers that we're all part of one ecosystem together. We all have to look after and support each other, and not the stuff, not necessarily buying the stuff from China. That doesn't last particularly well, as we talked about earlier. That feels like a really good place, I think, to call this one today. So once again, from myself, thank you very much for accepting our offer to be here, Robin, and talking about your journey and the company's history, development, where we're going, what's coming, and drivers and the support you give to the industry. So from us, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Right, and then from us, that is going to wrap up episode 14. We hope you've enjoyed this. As always, please do share this around with everyone else, comment on it, and we will see you very soon for another episode of the Bench Chassis Podcast. So from all of us, goodbye for now.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Fast laps, clean lines, that's how we go. Thanks for tuning in to the Bench Chassis on Road Podcast Show.